I would probably go with, let me look at the matchups again. The Lions have
the Washington Redskins.
The Redskins, which, they have not been all that great against the wide receivers. It's basically kind of a wash right now. What was kind of the determining factor for me is that over the last 5 weeks, Redskins have actually held wide receivers to about 4.5 points under projection, while the Titans have struggled as of late and allowed players to get 7 points over projection. So I think that probably Chark is probably the safer guy to go with. He seems to be the number one target for the most part for Foles. I had 15 targets in this last game, and Foles' first game back. So I think that Chark is probably the way to go, in my opinion.
All right, let's go over some football games, shall we? Beginning with the Thursday night game. Got the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Houston Texans. Go for it. Who do you got?
All right. Well, in terms of fantasy, I like Brissett as a streaming option. This one. I also it'll be interesting to see how the backfield shakes up. I think in terms of PPR and half-point PPR, Hines is my favorite running back play in this one. I think that he'll be more of a flex play of anything. Pascal is an okay option. He's more of a wide receiver 4 or 5. But if T.Y. Hilton is healthy, he, for me, moves into a wide receiver 2 range because the Texans' defensive backs are so bad against wide receivers. Ebron, we're still not sure how healthy he is going to be for this game. And so I think that Jack Doyle may carry a little more fantasy weight as far as the Texans go. I think that Watson bounces back a little bit while the Colts defense has been pretty good against quarterbacks. Watson, I think, bounces back, has a decent game. Hopkins should, again, have a very good game this week. But that's really those are the guys that I am depending on the most in terms of the Texans. I think that the Texans actually win this game, even with how bad their defense has been. Being at home, I think, will help. Thursday night game, I'll put the Texans winning this one 28-24.
I'll go to Texans with 27-17. Okay, on to the next game, Miami, Cleveland. I agree with you. Deshaun Watson bounces back. I think he does. And DeAndre Hopkins, I think, should have a pretty good game as well. So Miami against Cleveland. No,
all right, so in this one...
There is no Bernie Kosar sighting in this one either, by the way.
As far as the Dolphins go, the only person I really like at all in terms of fantasy is Devontae Parker. He has performed very admirably over recent weeks. And so I think that he is by far the best fantasy option at all in Miami, and that he is really the only person that should be played on any fantasy leagues, unless it's a really, really deep league and you have like Kalen Ballage, or absolutely desperate need to use Patrick Laird, the backup running back. So really, it's as far as the Dolphins go, it's Parker only. As far as the Browns go, Mayfield is a great streaming option. The Miami Dolphins give up the 5th most amount of points to quarterbacks. Chubb and Hunt both should be in for really solid games. Minimum, I think that they are running back 2s. I think OBJ and Landry should be in for okay games. Really, I think that this is going to be a Browns offensive assault. I know that the Dolphins have played better defense as of late, but I think that the Browns may actually be starting to catch their stride a little bit. And really, it started when Kareem Hunt started getting involved in the offense. So I think that the Browns will be fine. I'm looking at this one probably 28-10 Browns.
Yeah, the Miami Dolphins did give Alan Hearns a 2-year contract extension. But I think that Jarvis Landry would love nothing better than to have a nice game against a team that let him go. But I don't think the Dolphins get double digits. I'll go Cleveland 24-7. And if they want to keep Freddie Kitchens around, it'd be better for the Browns to start getting it figured out pretty quick, even though they'll be without Myles Garrett and this game and many others. So Cleveland 24, Miami 7. And the game I just talked about, Detroit against Washington. No Matt Stafford.
Yeah, so in the Lions and the Redskins, Driscoll, I think, is again a fair. He's a fair start as a streaming option. The Redskins give up, right in the middle of the road in terms of giving up points to fantasy quarterbacks. What helps with Driscoll is his mobility. Finishing last week, I want to say it was 8 carries for about 60 yards and a touchdown. As far as the running backs go, I think that Scarborough likely, as of right now, is the most likely to be fantasy productive. The Redskins have given up more points, or giving up over projection points to running backs, while they've over recent weeks have actually been able to hold teams under projection at quarterback, quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end. So Galladay is still solid enough. I think he still gets about his projections, solid points. And Hawkinson, again, he is a tight end too. He'll get you just enough points to say that your tight end didn't skunk you, but he's not getting involved enough in that offense. Really, since week 1, he's averaged about 5 points a week in PPR leagues. So he's not a guy that I necessarily trust unless I have to, unless I'm dealing with injuries and stuff. So as far as the Redskins go, this is a good matchup for the Redskins in terms of the defense. The Lions have given up so many points, the fourth most amount of points to quarterbacks, the most points to running backs. So I think that Geis could be in for a solid game this week, especially catching the ball out of the backfield. Terry McLaurin could be in for an okay game. It all depends on how well they can get Haskins going. And so I still think that the Lions probably pull it out, but I think that this could either be one of those games where it's a bit of a shootout between two not so great teams, or it's neither offense can really get anything going. I'm going to go in the shootout mode, and I'm going to say, why don't we call this one, we'll say 31-27, Lions.
Yeah, I was going to go 31-19 Lions. But, yeah, I think Detroit needs a win in the worst way to save themselves, and the Washington Redskins are reeling. And just because Dwayne Haskins' Ohio State Buckeyes beat the Michigan Wolverines doesn't mean that Dwayne Haskins' Washington Redskins will beat the Lions. Had to get that little Midwest Michigan-Ohio thing in there. And a game that we just spoke about, Jacksonville Jaguars against the Tennessee Titans. The Jaguars need a win in the worst way. I have a feeling that Doug Marone's seat is going to get hotter and harder by the loss.
Yeah, I think that the Jaguars. I'm going to say that the Titans probably win this one. I think it may be tough for the Jaguars to win this. I know that Foles has been was definitely a nice comeback this last week in his first week back, throwing a couple touchdowns. But I don't know. I don't know if this Jaguars defense can hold down the Titans. Ryan Tannehill has been playing on fire lately. As far as the Jaguars go, I think that Foles is an okay streamable option. The Titans have been giving up a bunch of points, not only to the quarterback, but also to the to wide receivers over the last few weeks. But they've been doing a very good job against running backs. So while you're probably going to start Leonard Fournette if you have him, I would not expect him to put up a lot of points. I would expect mid to low running back too, maybe 10, maybe 12 points as a starter in half point PPR. So I think that Chark is obviously going to be the best option there at wide receiver. As far as the Titans go, Tannehill, I think again he's a streaming option. He's scored at least 18 points, almost 19 points in his last 4 games, all of which he has started. He's been very, very consistent over those games. So Derrick Henry, I think, is in for a big game running the ball. The Jaguars have not been able to stop the run very well at all. And so I think that Derrick Henry is going to be could be a top 5 guy at running back this week. I don't really trust the wide receivers just because we haven't seen enough consistency when all of them are healthy between A.J. Brown and Davis. And we're still not sure if Delaney Walker is going to be healthy for this game. If he is, I think that he is probably a startable guy and possibly a top 10 option for tight end. But otherwise, it's Juju-Smith, and again, Juju-Smith has had a hard time being too consistent so far in his career. So for the most part, I'm probably avoiding the tight end position there. So I think that honestly, I think the Titans probably win this. I'm going to say probably 17-14 Titans over the Jaguars.
Oh, you think it's that low scoring, huh?
I do.
Really? Yeah, I'll give the Titans a nod, but 26-21.
Okay.
Ryan Tannehill seems to have gotten a fresh start in Tennessee, and when you know that Marcus Mariota, who would have thought that Ryan Tannehill would have been the starter and Marcus Mariota would be on the bench, but Tannehill's gotten a fresh start, and Marcus Mariota may be looking for another zip code and area code next year. Of course, nobody looks for.
Well, let's not forget, this is probably the best offensive line that Tannehill's ever had in his career.
True. Yeah, you got Taylor Lewan on there, and the guy from Michigan State. I'm trying to remember who it was, but drawing a blank. But you're right. When you have a good offensive line and they keep you on your feet, it does make life a whole lot easier, doesn't it? So.
Yes, it does.
All right, we'll go to the Sunday night game. Green Bay against San Francisco. The Packers are coming off a bye, and San Francisco, came off a tough win last week against Arizona.
Games in a row.
Yeah, haven't they?
So if you look at what they, with the overtime loss at the last second overtime to the Seahawks, and then you've got this last week where it really came down to the wire, and even though the score says that they won by 10 or 11, that was really because of a lateral that was run back in the closing seconds of the game, a lateral that was fumbled and run back. So they ended up scoring with like 30 seconds left to take, in order to take the lead. So I think that they could be in for. This is definitely going to be one of the better offenses that they have faced, obviously, with Green Bay, and it's not just Aaron Rodgers. It's the fact that they have a solid running game. Now, the 49ers have been very good against the run, and really they've been very good against all phases. They're in the bottom, you're one of the 5 or 6 best at every position in terms of defense, and the amount of points they've given up to or the amount of fantasy points they've given up. So. I think that Rodgers may struggle a little bit, but if they can get Jones and Williams running, it may open things up a little bit more for Rodgers. I think that if the Packers defense can find a way to stop the running game of the 49ers, it's going to, again, force Garoppolo to have to make throws, which he has not been all that good at so far. I think he was exposed about that in the Seahawks game because they have a little bit better secondary. And so the Packers have a little bit better secondary as well. And so it'll definitely be interesting to see. As far as fantasy goes, Aaron Rodgers, I don't necessarily trust. If you have to have him, I understand. Jones and Williams. Jones is he's one of those, he could put up a top 5 running back type of performance, and then the very next week he could go out with 10 carries for 15 yards. So it's really interesting on how that dynamic has worked in Green Bay. Devontae Adams, if you're going to play him, I don't trust any other wide receivers for the Green Bay Packers. And Jimmy Graham, honestly, Aaron Rodgers has never thrown very much to tight ends, ever, in his career. And so, really, I think that Jimmy Graham going to Green Bay wasn't necessarily something that was going to spark his career again, as he's, kind of in the twilight of his career.
Right.
And so, Jimmy Graham, again, for me, is not really a fantasy option. As far as the 49ers go, Sanders, if he is healthy, should be fine. And Deebo Samuel, I think, is a great streaming option against the Packers defense. And Coleman